You're listening to another great podcast in the MyMac Podcasting Network.
News, security stories, technology, and all sorts of other related chit-chat catches our attention. Welcome to the Essential Apple Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and I'm back again. It was almost another solo show, but you are saved. MacJim from the Slack room, a prolific contributor, to be honest, very active in the Slack room. He puts articles on the website, and an awful lot of the stories we report on here often come via Jim. So, welcome, Jim. Everybody should be grateful that you've agreed to come on the show. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am a Mac user, enthusiast, Scotsman, as you can tell by the accent. Also a photographer, and the host of the Essential Apple Slack users groups Flickr website.
You are indeed. You are indeed. So, this week there's been a few stories. Of course, probably the biggest story of all was Elon Musk and his interestingly styled CyberTruck with not unbreakable windows. We'll get to that later. And the other big story, I guess, is really the strange announcement that Apple are going to have a December the 2nd media event honouring favourite apps and games, which again we'll get to in a moment. But those who follow the Slack room will know that Jim has had quite a saga with his iPhone and a weird bug affecting the contacts. So, Jim, do you want to tell the listeners about your somewhat annoying and rather frustrating bug with your iPhone?
Yes, it only started when I installed iOS 13, so it's obviously an iOS 13 problem, and it seems to only affect those that use Virgin Media, Virgin Mobile operating systems on their phones. And what happens is it corrupts the phone numbers and turns them into Belgium style numbers, so you've got two numbers space, and so on. This results in you losing calls. They either go directly to the answer service or you don't get them. Or if you phone out, like phoning for a taxi after a night out at the pub, it dials a Belgium number, which is not a lot of good if you want a taxi from Belgium to my home.
Yeah, and I would think a lot of, Glasgow taxi cabs are not keen on answering a call, which is, can you pick me up in Antwerp?
But the other problem is it resulted in a lot of missed calls, and it ended up with me trying to get through to Apple to book an appointment with the Genius Bar in Glasgow. Now, if many have tried this themselves, you will realise that it's extremely difficult to book an appointment to see a genius. Apple seems to have a system where it does its best to put you off getting an appointment. It'll try all kind of Q&A questions and answers, which none of them will actually resolve your issue. But I managed to get 2 appointments, one last week and one yesterday. The result is it's turned out to be a problem with Virgin Media, Virgin Mobile, and iOS 13. Their answer was to reset your language or your region more to the point, to either Belgium or America or somewhere else, restart the phone, and that was supposed to fix it. It does for a short while, maybe a couple of days, maybe even half a day, and you have to do exactly the same thing again, or restart the phone. Wiping the phone, putting new iOS on again, all these things haven't worked. So I'm left with the problem of either setting it like Jersey, which means that some of the apps disappear because they're not available in Jersey, or you stick with the problem and hope for the best.
That, I have to say, is decidedly frustrating in the extreme.
Yes, it's very much.
Because, of course, the other thing is, Apple helpfully added a kind of send unknown callers to voicemail, but if it's going to basically corrupt all your phone numbers, every phone number is an unknown number. So I'm assuming nearly every single call would be directed to your voicemail.
Yeah, but also they don't always go to voicemail. They just go to missed calls. Because there's a problem with voicemails, especially with Virgin Media, where it may be days later you discover you've missed a call and there's an answer service call there. So that doesn't help things either, especially if it's an urgent call. Other things I use is I have an app which it supposedly blocks spam calls, and I can't remember what it's called. I'm busily searching here for the Hiya.
Okay.
I have a premium account, Hiya. That's HIYA, and it's meant to stop spam calls coming through. So whether that's also affecting it, I don't know. But it's an iOS 13 and a Virgin Media problem. It's a known issue as well.
Right, so there you go. That's Jim's public service announcement for any of you who are on iOS 13 and Virgin Media and are having a problem. You are not alone. Not sure that's much help, but at least it means you're not going mad. You are not going mad. It's a real thing.
Well, I had a vision of going into the Apple Store yesterday for my second appointment, and for them to just replace the phone. And then I was expecting to have a fight with them regarding my Apple Care, because the last time that happened, they wouldn't transfer the Apple Care over to the new phone. So I thought, okay, we're going to have a wee fight here. I've paid for 2 years, but I'm not giving it up. But fortunately, they didn't replace the phone. They just left it as, switch a language region and switch it back. That was the answer.
Right, so that's not really an answer, is it? That's a kind of temporary workaround.
It's up to Apple to get the bug sorted and stop this happening. Yeah.
So there we go. Let's hope they get it resolved soon then. But for what it's worth, Jim, I'm on 13.3 beta, and that's on 13.3. I think we just went on to beta 3. So based on current track records, that won't be far away, and let's hope that perhaps that will resolve your issue.
Well, you can see why I've written a couple of articles about my annoyance with Apple, to the point where I've actually considered moving to dumb phones, but that's another story.
That's another story altogether. But there are anybody who's interested in Jim's story about looking at dumb phones, of course, go to the website and you can read his articles thereon. There we are. So where shall we move on to? Let me see. Apple have announced a December the 2nd New York City media event honouring favourite apps and games of 2019. I wasn't sure what to make of this, and I don't think many other people are either, because normally the honouring apps and games of 2019 is a thing that they just post up, on the website. They list, the games that were games and apps that have been voted for the, honour of Apple App of the Year and Game of the Year and so on. So I don't know, what you got any thoughts on that, Jim?
Not really. It's the first I've heard of it. I mean, they do normally have their favourite apps announced every year, so I don't know what's different about it.
No, nobody seems to know, other than this year they want to have a live media event.
I'm wondering if it's something to do with the fact that there's been a few changes of heads of department, like Angela's Arnheit is now no longer there. I'm wondering if it's anything to do with the changes in the top management, whether they're doing something different.
It could be. The other thing that, of course, sprung immediately to my mind is if you're going to be talking about games, if they're going to use that as a way to promote the Apple Arcade.
Yeah, it could be something to do with the fact that, obviously last year we didn't have arcades, Apple TV Plus, or whatever they're doing this last couple of months. maybe that's a new format to deal with all these new services.
Yeah.
We can only wait and see.
I guess, yes, we will have to wait and see. I mean, maybe it is, as you say, with some certain changes at the top, maybe they've just got thought they should make more of it than simply publishing a list of, their top apps. We shall wait and wait with interest, I think, to see what happens there. I'm guessing it.
Sorry, carry on.
No, I'm just saying. I'm pretty sure. It's obviously it's going to do what it says on the tin. I doubt there'll be anything particularly surprising about it, other than perhaps they're just trying to pump up a bit more interest.
I don't know what they hope to gain out of it. You think it's trying to get folk to buy into arcade?
It could be. It could be that. Or it could
possibility.
I mean, the other thing is that there were, because of the changes in over sort of iOS 12 and 13, there were several companies who had been absent from the App Store who were tempted back. So I mean, there might be a certain amount of that, a bit of promoting, but I don't know. We will have to wait and see. And there's a story here from Ars Technica saying to cut down on bugs, Apple is changing how it develops its software. Basically, I read this, and they're suggesting that in forthcoming betas, they will make certain more contentious possible new features opt-in. I don't quite see how that's going to work, because surely the point of the beta is to find bugs. If something in the beta, if half the people on the beta turn something off because it's known to be buggy, I don't really see how that's going to help you. But I don't know. I'm not a developer. There might be.
Nor am I.
No. I mean, there might be reasons that works. Maybe that you could use it as a way to filter out what's an interaction between features causing a bug and what's actually a bug in a feature. But people with more knowledge than me can prognosticate on that one, I think. But there's a link there. Anybody who wants to read that article from Ars Technica, and anybody who wants to give me feedback and explain how that helps, maybe Wayhan or somebody else can tell us more about that. I would think
Wayhan is probably the better person to give an answer to that. Yeah,
I think probably so. There we go. Tim Cook has been on, what was it, ABC News. He appeared on ABC News in America, and he said, apparently, I will fight until my toes point up for DACA. That's the Dreamers program, of course. He said some other things. I've got a Mac Rumors summary of the interview, and then a link to the actual ABC News interview. It's Tim Cook saying Tim Cook things. Oh, go away. I don't need your pop-up. Trying to read it, and I've got a huge pop-up. Oh, yes, look, here's a pop. There's a thing. It's one of my tips. It's my top tip for the week. If you go to a website and you get one of those annoying banners about cookies and privacy and all the rest of it that covers up the content, 99% of the time, if you press Read a View in Safari, you can read the article without agreeing to anything or jumping through hoops trying to decide what you want to allow and what you don't. There you go. That's a twop tip. There we are. Twop tip.
And if you're in Europe, European Union, you'll get a pop-up warning saying, do you agree or do you disagree to the settings? If you disagree to it, you still get the article as well.
Yeah.
That also helps.
There we are. Tim Cook in October has signed an amicus brief, which is a support document urging the Supreme Court to uphold DACA and protect dreamers in the United States. He said, I will fight until my toes point up on the subject. I think it is so core to who we are as people that we not turn our back on people that came to this country as kids. There we go. And he's had a poke at privacy as well.
Yeah. I'm semi-interested in what's happening in America, and I do follow a wee bit of the the ons and goings of the impeachment and all this sort of thing, and changes to privacy and things like that in America. And it is quite worrying how it's been going. So it's good to see somebody actually standing up and fighting for everybody's rights. So, yeah, carry on. Fight the fight.
Fight the fight, that's right. Cook spoke on privacy and reiterated comments. He said he does not want to know your personal details and is not trying to vacuum up your data. He said that he is very worried in a world where nothing is private, then freedom of expression evaporates. There we go. And I think basically we know that he's poking a finger at Facebook and Google mostly. Which actually there's a in the show notes, I made a note down here in the security and privacy section. I found an article from iDrop News, who I've never heard of, by the way. 1.2 billion user record leak proves how important Apple's privacy policies are. It's worth a read. A security researcher found an unsecured data store on the net, available to anybody who knew where to look, with 1.2 billion user records containing things like names, addresses, telephone numbers, email addresses. As the article said, nothing in it was particularly contentious. Most of the information that was in this hoard of data is stuff that is publicly available, so it didn't contain any things like social security numbers or other things that perhaps are considered more personal. But the author's main thrust was just it just shows how all these companies are hoovering up your data, even if you think it's not particularly important data. Names, addresses, email addresses. And then there are companies out there who are aggregating this into huge databases, which they are selling on, to advertisers and other people. So that's worth a read. It's not a particularly long piece, but the author is saying, this is why it's important that we have companies that are prepared to protect our private data.
I don't use Facebook and I don't use Twitter, and I've even gone to the extent of actually switching off Siri now. Although Apple's probably one of the better ones of keeping your privacy, I'm certainly not wanting to have something listening into my conversations. It's just with myself. But no, I've actually got to the stage now. Serious stuff both on the iPad, the iPhone, also on my Mac and my TV.
I have my Siri. I do use Siri occasionally, not a lot. But I do not have turned on the Hey Siri function. If I want Siri, I activate it, by pressing the key. Partly because I have a great deal of problem getting Siri to actually respond to me when I shout the key phrases, and it takes no notice. And then I'll say something completely irrelevant, and it will pop up and say, "I didn't understand what you said," which is like.
Right. But if you can imagine what it makes out of my accent as well, you ask someone to do something, you get something completely different.
Yeah.
The worrying thing is that there's been that many problems recently of companies being hacked, and like OTube is one. Who else was there? There was a couple of companies that were hacked. They used to own Flickr, Yahoo, and they never let know that all your details had been hacked. And it was like 2 years down the road when they finally admitted to it.
Yeah.
So a lot of your data is out there, and it's getting stolen, it's getting used, and that probably explains why you get a lot of spam calls and a lot of spam email.
It does.
Your data's been sold.
This is where an awful lot of this stuff comes from.
So that's why you should really be using apps like sudo and other types of things like that to put up a false email address, a disposable email address or a disposable number. That way you can at least try and keep some of your privacy safe.
That is true. I'm a big fan. I use both sudo and 33 mail. The 33 mail is very good. Even on the free level. It allows you to generate a reasonable number of disposable email addresses, and of course, if you are using them as disposable, you simply you keep it there for a week or something, then you dispose it, and that slot is available to create another disposable email address.
Well, the one thing I haven't been able to figure out is Apple announced a way of making a disposable email address.
Well, that
sign on. I've not seen that ever appear on.
I've not seen it appear because obviously it relies on people actually taking it up and providing it as a service. And of course, how it actually worked was you would enter your details into sign in with Apple, and Apple would generate a fake email address to send, to the service. But obviously, it relies on people taking it up, and I don't think I've seen many. Well, I've not actually seen any services offering sign in with Apple at the moment.
No, I don't think I've seen any of it at all.
Although, if I did, I think I'd probably be okay with using it. But all the other ones you see, sign in with Twitter, sign in with Facebook, sign in with Google, I'm highly dubious of those, and I prefer to generate my own login. And if that means using a pseudo mail or a 33 mail account to do so, that's what I do.
Could it be it's a Catalina service only? That's why we're not seeing it.
Well, I mean, I'm on Catalina, and I've still never seen it. I don't think it's I don't think it's Catalina only per se. That was when they announced it, but I don't think it relies on Catalina. I think it's an API that it requires service providers to tie into.
Hopefully, it starts getting taken up. Please.
Yeah, I mean, I guess these things take a little bit of time. There we are. Apple have launched new smart battery cases for the iPhone 11, 11 Pro, 11 Pro Max, with apparently a dedicated phone button. I don't know if that's a shortcut or a shutter button.
It's a shutter button for the camera.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of get why Apple would make smart battery cases for the phones, but on the other hand, since I've been on the 10R, I mean, my phone lasts pretty much all day. The only time I even get low is if, on the weekend when I sit here for hours skimming through Apple News and the blogs to correlate a load of stories for the show. So you'd have to be a really heavy duty user, I think, to.
Well, I'm an iPhone 10R user, and I barely get through the day with the battery. But that's mainly because I use my iPhone as an iPod as well. So I'm constantly listening to Essential Apple and various other podcast shows. So I'm burning away 1 hour of consuming shows. So maybe I'm a heavy user compared to others.
Yes, I guess you would be probably considered if you're using it to play. I mean, I do listen to podcasts on mine, but not all day. Obviously, I work in an office, so quite often if I'm listening to podcasts, I'm listening to through the browser on my desktop. But even so, I mean, if you can pretty much get through the day on a 10R.
I've only ever once had an Apple smart battery case, and I can't remember which model of phone it was. And it was certainly a very useful thing to have because it did allow me to get through the day and more. But it was an expensive buy then. And at the price, I think they're quoting about £145 or thereabouts.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is an Apple one. Other smart battery cases.
It's a big investment.
It is a big investment. And my problem with, battery cases, and this is me personally because I'm tight and poor, is that pretty well that the chance of that case fitting your next phone is tending towards zero. So I will admit I have a preference to buy. If I do buy batteries, I tend to buy a pocket battery. One of these.
Moffy.
Yeah, or just
similar.
Which you keep charged up, keep in your pocket. I have a short cable about 4 inches long, so that should I need to do that, I simply plug it in and I can hold the phone, I can hold the battery in my hand with the phone in front of it, and it's just connected by a very short cable. there we are. But there we go. Apple have announced new smart battery cases for the iPhone 11 range for those of you who apparently burn battery like there's no tomorrow. Perhaps if you work underground and have the flashlight on full all day, you're going to burn all your battery. There we are. And Apple have started work on a new $1 billion campus in Austin of Texas, expected to open in 2022. Not a lot to say about that, really, other than, Apple are expanding across the US. I suppose from a US political point of view, that's a good thing. And it's probably good PR for Apple to be seen to be building, factories and campuses in the US rather than across the globe. But
no, I mean, they're saying here it's about 7,000 new employees in Austin. Well, that's really good news for Austin.
Very much so.
The worry is, though, that Austin become reliant on Apple being there. And the question is, what are they going to be doing there? Is it software? Is it manufacturing? It doesn't really tell you much.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, obviously, famously, Mr. Trump and Uncle Tim visited the Austin factory where they're going to assemble the Mac Pros, which is good news for Americans. Again, as you say, 7,000 jobs for Austin is good news. I think the thing that's important there is that where possible, if they're going to have these campuses, that workers are recruited from the area and not basically shipped in from elsewhere.
Yeah. And another worry is hopefully it doesn't turn out like another, I can't remember the place where they were talking about new manufacturing. It was one of the Apple suppliers were talked into opening up new factories with lots and lots of jobs, and they bought people's houses and cleared the land to build the factories. And apparently they've never had anything in these factories, so hopefully it's not going to turn out to be one big white elephant.
No,
being Apple, I wouldn't think so. But
no, I would think with Apple, chances are if they're building a campus, it's because they need a campus. But yeah, I mean, there's always. It's like the what was it? The Amazon search for a second, a second thing, which turned into an absolute farce. With cities bidding ludicrous amounts of money to try and attract them, and in the end, I think they just gave up on the whole thing as a bad loss. Well, right.
Maybe this is Apple employing people to fix the Media Mobile iOS 13 problem.
Let's hope so. Yeah, let's hope so. There we go. I'll tell you what, Jim, this is the bit where we normally take a 5-minute break for Nemo's hardware store. So I think what we can do is get a cup of tea or open a fresh bottle of beer or whatever it is we're going to do, and we will go over to Nemo's hardware store, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Take it away, John.
Welcome back to Nemo's hardware store here on the Essential Apple Podcast. Our friends at Kennex, or Kennex, that's K-A-N-E-X, Kennex.com, has the Go Power watch stand with wireless charging base for Apple Watch plus iPhone. That's all one word, Go Power, G-O-P-O-W-E-R. Go Power stand for Apple Watch plus wireless charging for iPhone. $80 in the U.S. It's a Qi or Qi enabled charging flat round base, and you just set your iPhone on it and it charges. That's it. It works great. And then above it is a very cleverly and brilliantly designed angled charger. You'll have to go to see the link in our show notes here at Essential Apple to see the picture of how your watch just sets on this angled charger at just the right angle. So the watch resides, it sort of floats above your phone. So your phone is underneath it on the round base, and then the angled round charger that's elevated above has the watch. It's very, very straightforward. Excellent pictures on the website. If you're looking for a Qi or a Qi enabled charger for your newer phone and a beautiful charger for your watch, KANEX, Kenex.com, Go Power Stand for Apple Watch, plus wireless charging for the phone for the Apple Watch and the iPhone. This 3-in-1 stand safely charges and displays your Apple Watch and phone, plus another device all in one place, because there is a USB 2 port right next to the AC power port along the edge of the unit. So I'm plugging it into the wall right now using a North American power outlet, and then immediately next to the port where that connects to the base is a regular old USB 2 port. So you literally have a 3-in-1 charging capability. The instructions are on the box, and after you've had it for about 30 seconds, you will be able to understand exactly how it works and put it on your nightstand or your office table or wherever you charge your watch and or your phone. Well done, Kenex. You keep coming up with creative and well-designed and totally functional products for those of us here at Essential Apple and Nemo's Hardware Store. Back next week.
Thank you for that, John. And as ever, all the links will be in the show notes. And at this point, with Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and the holiday buying season, i.e. Christmas, coming up, don't forget, if you're going to buy stuff from Amazon, doesn't have to be anything related to this show, please do us a favour. Go to essentialapple.com, press the big red button, you can't miss it, it's enormous, and then go and do your shopping, and we will get a small kickback on what you spend. Doesn't cost you anything, you're not charged extra, we just get a few pennies in kickback, which we use to pay for hosting and various things like that, buying Mark a new microphone or some such, and there we are. So thank you for everybody who uses the affiliate link. Right, well, Jim, we're going to move on to the technology section, really.
Okay.
IBM has found its Mac users to be more productive than PC users. And
that's probably because they're not having to reinstall Windows on the blue screen of death.
Yeah, I mean, this story, it's something, I guess, that lots of us have heard anecdotally, a lot, that Mac users are more productive, or, they cost less to support. That IBM are careful to point out, however, in their report, that, correlation is not causation. There could be all sorts of self-selecting reasons why the Macintosh users appear to be more productive and cost less to support, but it's an interesting report nevertheless, and one that us Mac enthusiasts can use to poke fun at Windows support guys who are anti-Mac. There we are. I mean, did you read that one, Jim, or did you just...
No, I didn't really get a chance. I've kind of skirted over it. I suppose it depends on how many people working in IBM actually use Macs at home.
Oh, a large proportion now, surprisingly.
If you're used to working with one system, it's much easier to work with. I'm not anti-Microsoft, but I did find, well, obviously when I used it was like Windows 98, which is...
Yeah, it's a long time ago now. Yeah,
was a long time ago. Yeah, but I don't know if how easy Windows is nowadays to use. Is it still? I mean, there's a lot of legacy problems. I would imagine there's a lot of bugs and things, but I don't know. I'm really guessing.
I mean, in my experience, because I do, I do use both. I mean, Windows 10, I find, really quite easy and pleasant to use. Mm-hmm. It's the more the administrative side of it, which I find can get difficult. Microsoft,
if it's easier to use, it means you're more productive at the end of the day. I mean, do they actually allow people to use a Mac OS and IBM to do their work, or are they actually still working on Microsoft software?
Well, they have both. This was the thing a few
They
years.
do have both. Right.
Oh yeah, they have a large, fairly large percentage of their staff. They now effectively allow most staff to choose if they wish to work on Macs or PCs.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think they have about 40% of their users are on Macintoshes.
Yeah, I mean they can still use the likes of Microsoft Word to do that kind of side of the thing.
Yeah.
So it works in both operating systems.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
Macs are definitely easier to use, but again, you're back to what you're used to.
I think
Macs.
I think that is a lot of it. That is a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this kind of bitter rivalry of,
Mm-hmm.
Windows is better than Mac or vice versa is often just down to, what you're used to. And when you switch to another system and things aren't where you expect them to be or don't work how you expect them to be, that's frustrating. But it doesn't mean either one is right or wrong, simply that they've taken a different approach. I have to admit, when I use Windows, I do find it is in the administration of the system that I get more frustrated, not using it day to day. That I don't find that a problem. Some parts of Windows are mired with a lot of historical legacy stuff, which means sometimes administrating some parts of the system is quite arcane. But
in many ways, Microsoft needs to actually just say, right, on this certain date, we will no longer support legacy stuff. They're needing to clear out all the old stuff and start with a fresh Windows 10. And if they want to, they could do like a version for industry.
I think they would very much.
Yeah, they're needing to do something like that, because if they carry on the way they're carrying on, it's going to get bogged down.
Yeah,
I'm not anti Microsoft. I've actually, you probably from Slack group comments that I've actually been seriously thinking about getting a Microsoft Surface 7, mainly because it gives me the iPad's way of working, but with a full operating system. So I'm not anti Microsoft.
No, I'm not.
I can see why the Mac users are more productive. Yeah.
So I'm very much with you on that. And I think quite a lot of people, industry analysts and Microsoft keep kind of attempting it a bit. They have, with Windows X and Windows S and these various other things which don't. I think they're almost in a position that Apple were in, but Apple had much more leeway to kind of burn it to the ground, especially when they started with Windows, with Mac OS 10, was to burn everything to the ground and say, right, well, sorry, we're going to start again. And Windows has done that to some extent, but there is a lot of stuff. I think they almost need to build two versions. You need, Microsoft for industry and Microsoft for consumers. Very much.
Yeah, they keep shooting themselves in the foot, because they keep bringing out what was the previous tablet version that they had?
Well, they had the one that wasn't really Windows.
Yeah, and it flopped big time. And then they've brought out this new Surface Pro X or 10, which and it turns out that it's a specialised system. It doesn't. Is it 32-bit or 64-bit?
No, it's a 64-bit, but it runs on ARM. It runs on ARM, so
they've kind of shot themselves. Well, they've basically put themselves in that.
I did read that they are working on x86 emulation for that system, so that eventually this Windows X version will be able to run, traditional apps.
I hope so, because it deserves to actually succeed. It's a lovely looking device.
Yes,
it's what the iPad should have been.
It's a very nice looking bit of kit.
Yeah.
No, I'm certainly not anti Microsoft at all. While we're on that subject, Microsoft is apparently now allowed to sell software to Huawei once again. They've been given a US export license, probably for Windows and Office software. So Huawei will be able to, resume selling Microsoft powered laptops. Not sure what that signals.
How does that affect their phones? Because was there not a ban on the software for their phones?
Well, that was part of the same thing. Whether or not
same thing, right?
Well, it was all part of the same thing, but obviously Microsoft have put in for some kind of exemption, and have been allowed to sell software licenses to Huawei. I mean, it's all part of this silly push and shove political.
Yeah, I've got a friend who bought one of their phones, and when they brought out this ban, his worry was that all his software wouldn't work after.
No, I mean, in all that they basically did was the US administration said you are not allowed to sell or give Huawei any more of your stuff. So it would have been a case of Google couldn't let Huawei have a newer version of Android. So anything that you had, which was already up and working, would continue to work perfectly well. It's But I mean, Huawei started working on this. I can't remember what it was called now. Harmony OS, I think.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. Whether or not they'd ever be able to get that off the ground, I don't know. But like so many of these things, as we've said on this show before, it's not as straightforward as it seems, is it? Because the whole technology industry is a global web, and everybody is reliant on everybody else. So,
it's like Samsung tried a similar idea. They developed an operating system and the possibility of being forced out of Android. So they've all got. I would suspect they've all got some kind of backup somewhere.
I'm sure they have. And of course, Android itself is open source, so. There's nothing to prevent Huawei or Samsung or whatever taking the pure open source part of Android and building on that. I mean, the difference is that the open source doesn't contain things like the Google Store, the Play Store, the Google services and all that. But I mean, a company as big as Huawei or Samsung, I'm pretty sure could build their own infrastructure, particularly Huawei, because obviously they've got a huge market in China, which don't have access to Google anyway. So
what's actually changed to make them say, okay, you can sell it again?
Who knows? Politics.
Yeah.
I suspect they will have probably. I mean, this is pure speculation on my part, but I suspect Microsoft will have said, if you stop us exporting these Windows and Office licenses to Huawei, they're either going to pirate it, or we're going to lose a lot of money. And it's not, there's nothing mission critical in there. There's nothing. There's no secret information in that software, which is somehow going to help China overthrow the United States. So
it could be commercial pressure being put on.
Almost certainly.
Yeah,
almost certainly. It will all come down to the money in the end.
That's it. It's money.
There we go. Motorola have launched a new Razr. Take your pick.
Yeah.
It looked interesting, and it's an awful lot of money, but it did look interesting.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I mean, I once had the original Razr. A nice phone, but the operating system was hell, to put it mildly. But the idea is good. I like the idea of a folding phone.
Well, of course, this one is basically Android, so the hell of your Symbian-powered Razr is in the past.
There's still the worry of how durable these screens are.
Yeah, I mean,
because they're saying that they'll last the lifetime of the phone. But what's the lifetime of a phone? I mean, most folk will have traded in within a year or two. But is it hang on to the phone? What is the lifetime? Is it 4 years, 5 years? I've had 4 years quoted. And at £1,500 or thereabouts.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money for a few years.
It is. It is.
But also, it's not. It's a lot of money for a phone that's not really feature rich. The camera's not as good, and a few other things are not as good. I think you're paying for the.
You're paying for the kudos of having a folding phone, I think, and a certain amount of nostalgia for the Razr brand.
Mm. But I think it's more. I think it's a better idea than the other folding phones. I think it's less likely to get damaged like some. Although if you've seen the video of the phone being folded, you can see a gap underneath screen as it curves over. So that's another possible place for.
That's always a point of
something getting in and doing damage. So
yeah, I mean that was the problem with with those ones the Samsung folds that they let out. They had that gap and stuff. Within a day, people were getting stuff inside their phone and breaking the screens. Well, we're nearly at the end, yeah.
Yeah, I have to say the phone, the Microsoft phone that's supposed to be coming out next year, looks more appealing to me than these folding screen ones. There's two separate screens.
Yes,
I think the technology is too new.
Yeah,
folding screens.
Folding screens. I think I'm with you there.
Time will tell.
Time will tell, but also you're paying an awful lot of money to go back to one of those squidgy plastic screens, which we all hated so much.
Well, I mean, I moaned about the price of the iPhone 10. So,
I'll no be buying. Yeah,
but this is even higher,
as they say on Dragon's Den, and on that point, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are. And that's pretty much it. Of course, we were going to talk about Elon Musk and his Tesla Cybertruck, which is probably the last big story. Obviously, I'm pretty sure you've probably seen it, Jim. In fact, I think it might have been you. Put a link in the Slack room. Pretty interesting looking thing.
Interesting is one word for it. Ugly is another one, but I think they're very polarised. Yeah, you either like it or you don't.
I think you very much do. And for anybody who's not seen it, do go and have a look. I'm sure you have. It's all over the web. It looks like a low poly sci-fi model from
Mad
something
Max
like
comes to mind.
Mad Max, or I was going to say to some extent Jerry Anderson.
Yeah, that's true.
I think you either like the style or you don't. I mostly like it. I'm not keen on the wheel arches. I thought there perhaps a bit of curve over the wheel arches wouldn't have hurt it, but it comes in 1, 2, or 3 electric motor versions, and prices I think start at a relatively reasonable sort of 30,000 plus. I think if you go all the way up to the full, 3 motor heavy haulage version, it would probably set you back something like 80,000. But very interesting, very interesting. Of course, there was a lot of laughter garnered because for anybody who hasn't seen it, when Elon brought it on the stage, he hit it with a sledgehammer to prove how tough the panels were, which was great. And then he got one of the developers to throw a steel ball at the apparently armoured glass windows, which were supposed not to break, and broke. Quite spectacularly.
Yeah, it's a bit like that BBC Click programme where they were trying out this unbreakable phone, and the guy was demonstrating it, hit it against the surface, and it smashed. It probably was fine in demo.
Yeah. It's the curse of tomorrow's world.
That's it.
After the event, Elon did release a video of him and the same guy before the launch throwing this steel ball at the windows of the truck, and it was unscratched. Seems to me that they might have been a little bit over enthusiastic testing it out. And then I suspect they probably should have changed the glass before they did it on stage, because a lot of people are saying that although, in testing, they didn't break the windows, they probably introduced a lot of micro fractures into the glass so that when they hit it, let's face it, as you said to me before the show, Jim, if you hit something enough times with a hammer, it's going to dent or smash. So
The only saving grace is what Elon said. It didn't go through. So
No,
I suppose that's something.
No, it didn't go through.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely did what it was supposed to do. I mean, it's obviously super, laminated or whatever it is. But it was quite amusing. It was quite amusing. Look at our super unsmashable glass.
It makes you feel not feel. It makes you more impressed with Apple's demos of products from years ago. There's the one where they built the was it a laptop they built, and the guy assembled it on stage bit by bit by bit, and when he switched it on, it worked. You just wonder, they got away with that one.
Yeah,
these demos showed otherwise. It can be a hit and a miss.
Indeed.
Literally.
Yes. Perhaps he should have missed. There we are. Ah, dear. So, I'll move on to the Worth of Chirps. The Worth of Chirps this week are claim 30% off everything in the Affinity Black Friday event. Everything from Seraph Affinity, 30% off from the 25th of November through to the 3rd of December, including Affinity Photo, Affinity Designer, Affinity Publisher, various add-ons, brush packs, the workbooks, and, well, basically everything from Affinity. So if you're interested in picking up anything from them, that's worth looking at. And Skylum, makers of Luminar, have a Black Friday Cyber Monday deal, which is running from November the 27th to December the 2nd. There will be a bundle. There's bundle 1 is $79 and includes Luminar 4 and 2 bonus items of your choice. There's a large list of bonuses available. Bundle 2 will be $99. That is Luminar 4 and 5 bonus pieces of your choice. And if you want to go the whole hog, bundle 3 is $129 and will be Luminar 4 and all the available bonuses. I did notice in their press release for this that I believe one of the bonuses alone is worth $80. So, that's a pretty good deal. There we are. And just a snippet for what it's worth. Best graphic design software for 2020, designing for print and printing. Tech Radar have a list of, graphic design apps, and Affinity Designer is rated number 1. So there you go. Well,
plus you don't have to pay a subscription.
No, you don't have to pay a subscription. We're all big fans of Affinity here. Yep. There we go. Well, I think that probably wraps it up, James. So,
hopefully people have actually survived this long and got through to the end. Nothing bored them silly.
Well, I hope not. Our viewing, listening figures seem to suggest that we have enough people who find us relatively interesting. There we go.
Dear. That'll be going down drastically this week.
I'm sure they won't. I'm sure they won't.
For having a podcast virgin on the show. Yeah.
So, this is usually where we get people to announce where they can be found around the web. So, if you'd like to tell everybody where you can be found, Jim?
I can be found in the Slack group, and also you can find me through the Essential Apple Flickr group as well on the Flickr website.
Excellent. I, of course, can be found on the Twitters as @Serenak, SERENAK, and the show is @Essential Apple. All of our stuff is over at essentialapple.com, and this is where I'd like to say thank you to all the slackers. MacJim being one of said, and if you'd like to join in the madness of the Slack room, all you have to do is follow the link in the show notes. Link also to James's Essential Apple Flickr group, and I think that's probably about it. Thank you to everybody who supports the show, whether it's on Patreon, whether it's through the Pinecast Tips jar, whether it's by bludgeoning your friends to listen to it, whether they like it or not, and all the rest. So I think at that point, we'll wrap it up, shall we?
Yes, I'll be fine.
All right,
so it's
then.
good night from me.
And it's good night from him. So there you go. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Essential Apple podcast, and I'd like to say if you enjoy the show and would like to support us, feel free to go over to the website essentialapple.com and you will find links to both Patreon and the Pinecast Tips Jar, where you can make a donation towards the costs of the show, or even if you're really keen, you could set up a recurring payment. And thank you very, very much to all the people who already do support us. We really do appreciate you very much indeed. This show is, of course, part of the My Mac podcasting network, where you can find a variety of other shows like the My Mac podcast with Guy and Gaz, the G-Men, Tech Fan with Tim and David, the Nintendo Club podcast, the geekiest show ever, the Three Geeky Ladies, Bart Bouchot's and his wonderful Let's Talk Apple, and possibly some more that I've forgotten. So why not go over to mymac.com, take a look at the available podcasts, and take a listen.
My gal pals, Elisa, Susie, and Vicky, the Three Geeky Ladies, told me to remind you that they will release a new podcast each month. So, check them out at threegeekyladies.com or subscribe in iTunes. The Three Geeky Ladies, part of the My Mac podcasting network.
This has been the Essential Apple Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show and we look forward to you joining us again another time. Until then, goodbye.